6, which consists of myself, Pinkan, and Albianti, Andika, Laraswita, and also Shalwa. This is our podcast video for Indonesia's foreign policy exam. I will start with the introduction. During Sukarno's leadership, Indonesia's foreign policy was characterized by nationalism and anti-colonialism. Sukarno aimed to position Indonesia as a leader in developing world, transcending Cold War influences. Indonesia's commitment to independence and national interest was evident in its foreign policy, emphasizing international harmony and positive relations with all nations. Sukarno's era was pivotal for Indonesia's foreign policy, marked by a strong pursuit of anti-colonialism and independence. The principles of anti-colonialism and non-alignment continue to influence Indonesia's foreign policy to this day. Okay, some of my friends will discuss the topic. Let's start the discussion about Indonesia's foreign policy in the era of Sukarno's leadership. So, guys, what do you think is the most interesting aspect of Indonesia's foreign policy in the Sukarno era?
Alright, thank you for Gladys, and right now I will be starting our discussion. So, as we all know, Indonesia's foreign policy during Sukarno's leadership was characterized by nationalism and anti-colonialism. This is due to Indonesia was colonized by the Dutch and the Japanese army for hundreds of years, and I would say that Sukarno, of course, he would mainly put this this policy as one of the main foreign policies of Indonesia due to experience, and of course we don't want any repetition of the same event. And this foreign policy is it has an aim to establish the nation as a prominent leader in the developing world. So Indonesia is and still was and still is a developing country. However, with this nationalism and anti-colonialism foreign policy, Sukarno believed that Indonesia might be one of the most powerful countries, thus being one of the developing countries. And the country's foreign policy was based on achieving national interests through comprehensive government policies, and it focuses on defending independence and safeguarding state and security.
Okay, so two notable examples of Indonesia international stance during Sukarno's leadership are the Asia-Africa Conference and the confrontation with Malaysia. These events shaped Indonesia's international standing and exemplify its strong anti-colonial stance and resistance to external influence. The Sukarno era's foreign policy remains relevant today.
Wow, that's interesting. So, what is your view regarding the influence of Sukarno's foreign policy at that time on Indonesia's image in the eyes of the world?
So, so Indonesia was as we all know, Indonesia was colonized by the Dutch army and the Japanese army for hundreds of years. And we gained our independence by ourselves. We didn't have any other superpower country to intervene or to give us our independence. We all did this because of our determination. And that is why Sukarno believed that we should really focus on keeping the independence intact.
Thank you, Araswita, for the explanation. Okay, let me explain more about the influence of Sukarno foreign policy at that time on Indonesia's image in the eyes of the world. During the Sukarno administration, there was one foreign policy under Sukarno leadership that is called the non-aligned movement, which sought to advance knowledge and find answers to global issues. Because of the non-aligned movement, Indonesia and its member nations were able to develop a common policy in response to global issues. Leaders from a variety of nations, including Sukarno as President of Indonesia, Jawaharlal Nehru as President of India, Kwame Nkrumah as President of Ghana, Joseph Broz Tito as President of Yugoslavia, and Gamal Abdel Nasser as President of Egypt, agreed upon and launched the non-aligned movement. Also, they declared that neither the Eastern Bloc nor the Western Bloc dominance would have an impact on Asian African nations. The first summit of the non-aligned movement, also called KTT1, itself was held in Belgrade, Yugoslavia from 1 September to 6 September 1961. The conference emphasizes that the aim of the non-aligned movement was to position the country independently and act in accordance with its own interests rather than participating in politics.
During the Sukarno administration, Indonesia faced opposition to the formation of the Malaysia Federation, which he believed was part of British neo-colonial efforts, and this led Indonesia cutting ties with the UN and forming the Conference of the New Emerging Forces, or CONEVO, as an alternative for you. This marked Indonesia's bold stance in the global political arena and fighting for the interests of emerging nations, especially in Asia. However, this confrontational policy led into Indonesia leaving the UN and disrupting diplomatic relations and affecting domestic economic and political conditions. Despite the risks and consequences, Sukarno's foreign policy demonstrated Indonesia's strong drive to defend its sovereignty amidst global pressure. The confrontational stance toward Malaysia and the UN's withdrawal from the Organization of Nations demonstrated the difficulties associated with a tough political approach. Despite these challenges, Sukarno's foreign policy demonstrates Indonesia's strong efforts to maintain sovereignty.
What do you think about Sukarno's strategy for Indonesia foreign policy in remaining active on the world stage?
Yeah. Indonesia aspiration for international harmony and collaboration. It had led to a commitment to cultivating positive relations with all nations. So, due to our positive policy and our desire, Indonesia's desire to just really live in a peaceful world, due to having the experience of being colonized for hundreds of years. Sukarno believed during his leadership that Indonesia should just really promote world harmony because there is no other reason for us as human beings, as the global community, to just fight or like go into wars or go into conflicts or other disputes. And it's really best for all of us if we just live in the peaceful world, and we should just really work together on keeping everyone safe and not going into other conflicts, causing to risk many lives of our citizens, our community, global community. So yeah, that will be my part, and the next one will be my friend's part.
Yes, what Larswita said was one of Sukarno's strategies for Indonesian foreign policy, which has an important role in the international arena. But Indonesia foreign policy in the Sukarno era was made by the president himself, who had full authority in determining the direction and goals of foreign policy. President Sukarno was supported by the majority of Indonesian people who were called by the spirit of revolution and nationalism that he encouraged. Foreign policy itself is the attitude and actions taken by a country in response to global situations that affect its domestic interests. The era of Sukarno government in Indonesia recorded a number of foreign policies aimed at protecting the sovereignty and interests of the nation. Known for his proactive and independent foreign policy, Sukarno implemented an active and bold foreign policy approach in the international arena. However, this foreign policy also gave rise to debate and criticism from several parties, both domestic and foreign, who considered that Indonesia's foreign policy was too risky, sacrificed economic and social interests, and also ignored domestic problems such as poverty, corruption, and political instability. Indonesia foreign policy in the Sukarno era was created through a process involving various factors such as Sukarno charisma and vision as a revolutionary and nationalist leader who wanted to make Indonesia a respected and influential country in the world. The role and influence of the armed forces, especially ABRI, which was Sukarno's partner in implementing wider democracy and facing domestic and foreign challenges. Also, pressure and support from political parties, especially the PKI, which has a large mass base and a different ideology from other parties such as the PNI, NU, and Masyumi, and dynamics and developments in the international situation, which influence Indonesia's attitudes and policies towards other countries, and both friendly and hostile. Thank you.
Despite bold policy decisions abroad, these decisions also had a major impact on international isolation, diplomatic relations, and domestic economic and political circumstances. Despite risks and consequences, these foreign policies show Indonesia's strong efforts to maintain sovereignty. Thank you.
Well, thank you for all speakers for your insight on Indonesia's foreign policy under the era of President Sukarno leadership. My friend Shawa will tell us the conclusion of the previous discussion.
So, wrapping up our discussion today, in 1959 until 1965, early post-independent years, Sukarno pursued a free active foreign policy, asserting sovereignty and opposing imperialism. Participation in the Asia-Africa Conference and the non-alignment movement showcased Indonesia's commitment to anti-colonialism, while stance on the Malaysia Federation and the establishment of CONEFO highlighted its assertive global presence. Despite controversy over the aggressive stance on Malaysia, leading to Indonesia's UN withdrawal and isolation, Sukarno's reign demonstrated commitment to fighting colonial power and advocating for emerging nations. During this time, debates over foreign policy may focus on balancing global economic alliance with preserving local business and employment. Concern may arise about the extent of involvement in humanitarian crisis and fulfilling international commitments. Sukarno's foreign policy in this period reflected a complex interplay of political, economic, and diplomatic elements contributing to Indonesia's proactive and autonomous role globally. That's all from us. Thank you everyone. Until next time.